Remote No Pressure podcast. It's good to see you, Bill.
Good to be back.
It is good to be back.
Yeah.
You know, I've had some kids had the flu, so you weren't able to come over to the studio here to record. Have you avoided the flu, you and your wife?
I have. I've been pretty healthy the last couple of years. I haven't gotten the flu in a while.
Yeah, this is the first year that I really didn't get sick, like in a long time. I had a little cold there in the fall, but I used to get sick every year.
Do you ever get the flu shots?
Nope.
Me either.
Why not, Bill? Tell me more.
I only got the flu shot once.
When
my dad was sick with cancer, and we had to because his immune system was weak.
Right.
And I actually got a little sick from that too. Where I find if I don't get the flu shots, I don't get sick.
Well, don't they use like last year's strain or whatever, so it's like not even necessarily able to fight the current flu?
I couldn't tell you that either.
I've read up a lot about it, like the flu shot thing, and it seems like, yeah, if I were like, they say older people with weakened immune systems, and I would say my immune system is compromised just through all of my antibiotics and medical situations that I've had, so I tend to get sick fairly easy.
Yeah.
But I won't take the flu shot.
No. I think you can build up your immune system too. You can even if you take a lot of antibiotics, you can build that up with probiotics and different foods
And exercise.
Yeah.
So if you go on to the YouTube page, if you look at my upper body, you could tell that I've been working out a little bit, Bill. Because I've been so depressed, like with the clouds and things like that I've had to start doing a little exercise.
Yeah, that's wise. Get the endorphins going for winter.
It feels like a drug.
Yeah.
After I work out, it's like, oh my gosh, I feel amazing because I just, you know, with my hip situation, it's been painful to work out and stuff, but it's like, I've got to do it or else I'm just going to die.
That's right.
Do you exercise much? You work out,
Nope.
the kind of thing?
That's right. You should be doing that. Do you exercise? Nope.
No, but it has been life-changing. You should come with me sometime. It's pretty cool.
Where do you go? Out in the cornfield?
Yeah, the cornfield. No, Planet Fitness.
Oh, yeah. They're building one right by my house.
Well, I was really skeptical about this whole thing because of the, I don't know, everything's purple. So I was kind of turned off by that. I know that's weird, but I was like, I'm just going to try it because it's really cheap. And so it's like $10 a month and all the equipment is new. And dude, I was really, really happy with what I got, the final product. It's been a great time.
And some are better than others location wise. I mean, like some will have like saunas or.
Yeah, this one has sauna, massage stuff. Like, but you got to pay an extra $10 a month for like your tanning beds
membership.
and all that. Yeah, the black.
Yep.
That black card.
You going out to Granville?
Yeah, I just got the basic. I don't do the tanning thing. My wife's an esthetician, and so that's why we're very white. And
tanning's bad for you.
It's very bad for your skin. So. But anyways, I'm very excited about. Hold on, before we get to this episode, because I'm very excited about this episode. I'm basically just kind of running my hawk right now because I'm trying to get some time in here. But I'm very excited about this episode.
Yeah.
But before we talk about that, let's go to In Other News. Bill, we've talked recently. Several of our friends, several of our mutual friends have gotten divorced.
Yeah, it's going around.
Unfortunately, but it's a fact of life. Usually, it involves going. You actually have to. I believe you've got to file a lawsuit against your spouse. Essentially,
yeah, I'm not sure exactly how it all works.
Oh, speaking of this, before we get to the other news, I went to pick up my wife's library books the other day.
Yeah.
Okay. And I didn't have her library card, and they were on hold in her name.
Yeah.
And the librarian's like, you can't pick them up. And I'm like, it's a library book. She said, well, because of privacy issues, if she were to give you the library card, it's implied consent. So you could pick up her books, but without her library card, you can't. And I'm like, oh, what's the big deal? She goes, well, some guy came in here a couple of years back, and his wife checked out a bunch of books on divorce, and he did not know, and he just went to pick up the books for her because he was already in the library. Next thing you know,
they're divorced.
I was like, holy cow. So I can kind of understand that. But this guy out of Kansas, Paola, Kansas. Paola is like a funny name for a place. But he requests sword fight with ex-wife and lawyer to settle legal dispute.
Can you do that? Is that a legal thing?
Well, a Kansas man has asked an Iowa judge to let him engage in a sword fight with his ex-wife and her attorney in a trial by combat that will settle their ongoing legal dispute. David Ostrom, 40, that's almost my age, of Paola, Kansas, said in a 3 January court filing that his former wife, Bridget Ostrom, 38, of Harlan, Iowa, and her attorney, Matthew Hudson, had destroyed him legally. The judge had the power to let the parties resolve our disputes on the field of battle legally, David Ostrom said, adding in his filing that trial by combat has never been explicitly banned or restricted as a right in the United States.
Oh.
He also asked the judge for 12 weeks of time so he could secure Japanese samurai swords. The Ostroms have been embroiled in disputes over custody and visitation issues and property tax payments.
So what's he going to kill his wife then?
I don't know. I don't know. We're going to put the link up. This is from The Guardian, so it is somewhat legitimate. I would say 80% legitimate. But we'll put that article up on our website. Are you familiar with the samurai sword culture, Bill?
I am not. I didn't know there's a culture of that.
I think there's a subculture of samurai swords and/or collectors. See, we had this guy in college named Big Stan Lane. He's one of those guys that's he's kind of like Chris Farley.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't matter if he wears a suit and gets a haircut. He still looks like sloppy. You know what I mean? He's just like...
You just can't help it.
He's just that kind of guy, you know? And he was... he was like really into samurai swords. This is pre 9/11, so... You know,
he's taking them on airplanes.
You could, well, you could have them on campus because I don't know if you could have them on college campuses anymore. I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah,
but you know, we didn't have guns, but he had a samurai sword, and I remember he used to bring it over to my dorm, and you know, I had this futon. I was the RA, so everyone hung out in my little.
Oh, lovely!
Yeah. So I had like a nice little futon and a nice little fridge, you know, and he'd come over, and this thing was like 3/4 the size of my futon, that big, and it was like a thing to him. I was like, but I can't imagine wanting to settle a divorce via samurai sword fight. Like, what is the end result going to be?
That's what I'm wondering. Can you still duel in America?
I don't know. It probably hasn't been outlawed. Evidently, it's never been talked about. So you could settle your divorce, I guess, technically via.
But would you get like manslaughter charges then?
I don't know. Like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to kill him? Are you trying to get a strike? Are you trying to, like, what is the end result?
And does that guy even know how to fight with a sword?
Well, he wanted 12 weeks to get the swords, which I'm thinking he's going to throw in some time, some training, because it doesn't take 12 weeks to get a samurai sword.
I don't think so. I go down to the Army surplus right now.
No, it's always like the rundown malls with Pookie's Dress Barn
or flea market.
Or flea market,
you go to the flea market and pick up a sword.
You can get a couple swords for probably buy one, get one.
Yeah.
You know? But, you know, it's always those malls with like Pookie's Dress Barn and like some carpet place. And probably like you can get one of those rugs, those Oriental rugs there. And with the purchase of a rug, you get a free samurai sword.
Sorry, you got to take the sword.
I'm sorry.
You own it.
It comes with the carpet. Can I just buy the sword? No, you're going to have to buy the carpet to get the sword.
Can I just buy the carpet, not the sword? No.
Nope.
I'm sorry. You've got to take the sword with you.
Either the carpet comes with the sword or the sword comes with the carpet. What's that mall over in Wyoming that used to be nice, but now it's like...
Rogers?
Rogers Plaza. You know, it's like the DMV's in there now, and like there's a post office.
Used to be an OCB. Old Country Buffet?
Yes, an Old Country Buffet. I took my brother there when he came over from Texas. And then now there's like a King's Crew, like a haircut place. You can get a tight fade. And like, that's it. And then like there's like I said, like a Pookie's Dress Barn. And there was a place there where you could get gold grills for your teeth.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's just like...
Did you?
No, I wanted to. My wife will not let me. I want to look like Paul Wall.
Who's that?
Dude, come on, dude. Well, I'm just kidding. No, but Paul Wall is like this rapper from Houston that's like has a totally gold grill. And sometimes I think I would look good with a gold grill or maybe one gold tooth.
That always to me kind of looks sloppy too. Like, oh, poor guy lost a tooth in combat.
Samurai combat.
Fighting with a samurai sword.
Oh my god!
Wouldn't that be a good story?
Oh yeah. So what happened to your tooth? While I was in a sword fight, samurai.
So my wife's lawyer.
Oh, then you sue for the tooth. Okay, so look, this is what we got this week, and I'm very excited about this particular episode because I've been waiting for this episode for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I interviewed my friend Aaron Reed from Austin, Texas, actually Georgetown, Texas. And he has a book coming out here in May called Fly Fishing Austin and Central Texas. We have the book launch May 7th in Georgetown. You can go to jefftroutman.us to see that because I have it on my personal website there because I'm playing music there at this book release. I'm very excited. We're going to have Brandon Bales there, Justin Barclay, Brad Boone. We're going to have Aaron Reed, and I'm hoping my buddy Paul Torres will come up as well. It'll be like this remote, no pressure reunion, right? It's going to be awesome. I'm very excited about this. It's going to be in Georgetown, Texas on May 7th. But his publisher sent us a couple of books to look at. Bill, what did you think about the book? Oh, and you can look at it too on our YouTube page.
Look at our YouTube. I'm holding it up. Look at it. Here you go. No, it was an awesome book. Like I didn't get all the way through because I just got it a couple days ago.
Yeah.
But it's very informative. Like even if you didn't know anything about fly fishing, this could get you started. In Central Texas, but even if you're not in Texas, there's informative stuff in there too.
That was the number one thing that got me is like the first 3 chapters. It's called Fly Fishing Austin in Central Texas, right? So by Aaron Reed, and it's a great book about fly fishing Austin. But also in those first 3 chapters, there is all about the basics of fly fishing.
Yeah.
You know, even if you don't live in Austin or you're not going to, I would suggest you buy the book because of that reason. Like I learned so much, you know, and I've never claimed on here to be a master angler by any means. There's always stuff that I can learn when it comes to fly fishing, especially fly tying, which I really suck at. But Aaron really explains everything on those first 3 chapters. You could, you know, which rod to buy, you know, how to tie it up. You're ready to go.
Yeah, I liked how he was saying too. Like you could spend $150 and have a perfectly fine, you know, rig.
Right.
Getting out in the woods. If you're starting out, like you don't have to spend thousands of dollars on a master setup.
Right. Exactly. And he just, you know, he's got a website. I think it's bluecollarflyfishing.com. We'll put the links up in the show notes. But also, that's all his old things. Anyone can fly fish. It's not this snobbery, you know, and
Elite.
we talked about that.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a big picture of Meryl Robinson. Did you notice that was Meryl?
Oh, I did.
And that front page. Yeah, she's been on the show as well. She may be at the book launch also, but yeah, that's Meryl right there. And she's in the book a few times, I think. But also on page 63, which is one of my favorite chapters, if you go to page 63, he actually named a spot in Austin, remote, no pressure. So waiting upstream from the bridge. So, and then he also talks, I think around page 110, he mentions my song Heaven, which is very, very humbling. So I you know, the thing is about Aaron is we've become friends, and that's what he did is he gave you the stream, a local brewery, and music to listen to on your way to the stream.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, he talked about different playlists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just the weight of the book is nice. I mean, I know this is like
the quality's really nice.
That's what I'm talking
quality.
about. Everything is the pictures
are beautiful.
This is a classic. I think every fly angler should have this on their shelves. And I'm not just saying that because Aaron's my friend. But I looked like if any guest I didn't even know sent this over to me and said, "Hey, can you review this book?" I would say the exact same thing, whether I knew them or not, whether the guy was a jerk or an awesome guy like Aaron Reed. And that's one of the things I like about Aaron Reed is he's all about community. I mean, they've got the Georgetown Whiskey group that they have, the Georgetown Whiskey Collective. He's got a few things going on. The dude's just like gets people together.
That's important to community.
It is, you know, especially
gives people a reason to keep going.
Yeah, and that's what he's all about. And I mean, if you take a look, he's kind of the nucleus. My kid said the other day, my 6-year-old, He's like, does it seem like Aaron Reed is involved in everything? And I'm like, yeah, he kind of is, because he hears his name all the time. Like, we have magazines upstairs with some of Aaron's articles written in it, you know.
Wow.
So he is part of our DNA here at the house, you know. So I'm so proud of Aaron, because it's a lot of work, you know, to get a piece of art and something envisioned in your head from concept to production. It's not this 5-minute deal. This is years of hard work, hard fishing. And I know his wife, Carrie, sacrificed a ton. His boys have sacrificed. Everyone sacrificed and supported him. And I know he's so grateful to those people.
That's awesome.
I just need to stop talking so much, Bill. You're the funny one out of this crew, out of the host and co-host, and you are the funny one of the two. No. I need your jokes.
Well, I'll send you my email with jokes before I come over.
Okay.
So we can set each other up.
We could set each other up. That would be good. Well, we're so proud of you, Aaron. Be sure to check out his website, bluecollarflyfishing.com. We'll also have all the links in the show notes, so you can check out the book as well. But welcome to the podcast. Let's light the fire. Today on the Remote No Pressure podcast, I am very excited because I have a friend who's on the podcast who I met via the podcast, Mr. Aaron Reed. Thank you very much for hanging out with me, Aaron.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for having me on. This is a real pleasure, and I've been looking forward to it for a long time.
I think I've only fished with one other guest who's been on the podcast, and other than you, and we went fishing this past summer and had a great time.
Did you catch fish?
I caught fish with you. Yes, I didn't get the.
No. I thought you meant the other guest. Did you catch fish with the other guest?
Oh, you know what? I don't think I did.
Okay, good. Score.
Yeah, and he didn't catch any fish either.
Okay, win-win for Texas then.
Yeah,
that man. When you were down here last summer, the water was low and a little scummy. Hadn't rained in a while, and I was a little bit. I don't know. I was a little bit embarrassed that I wasn't showing you that creek at its very best. But we had fun, didn't we? And those Rios were a ton of fun to chase, and the little Guadalupe bass. It was a good day.
That was a great day, man. And it was good just meeting you in person, because, we have a lot in common, our philosophy about life and raising kids, and philosophically me, you, Chris Barclay, Brandon Bales. I mean, you guys have all become people I talk to on a pretty decent basis, And
yeah, man,
that's one of the things about fly fishing that I was talking to people. I was like, yeah, it's great and everything, but it's really the relationships I've met through the sport that have really been dynamic in my life.
Yeah, I think most of my best friends now are fly fishermen, and I thought about that a lot. I know you ask guests frequently, what is it about the fly fishing community that makes it easy to form these like very quick and relatively deep relationships. And I really think it's because the sport itself, the pastime, like self-selects for people who are maybe a little more introspective, patient, people who maybe are willing to put their ego aside, because fly fishing is a humility factory, right? I mean, it's between the flies and the trees and the fish you miss, and you've got to be pretty humble going into it.
Yeah, I agree, and it's for the people who are patient or lack patience that are trying to get patient. That's me. That's probably me.
yeah, me too.
But maybe we'll get there. But we're humble enough to say we're not patient, and we're gonna keep pushing through. So that's so true on that. I want to say thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me to play at your book release there in May. And
I want to thank you very much for being willing to come all the way down from Michigan to do that. Out of the 10 guys who have albums about fly fishing, you were my top pick. So,
well, thank you. Thank you very much. But I'm excited because it's gotten, because I haven't really played out as much. I'm a songwriter, and To be honest with you, Aaron, what I want to do is just sit in my basement and write songs and just kind of just do that thing, But in all realities, I need to play in front of people, and that's what I've been doing, getting ready for your book release. And it's been a great experience, unbelievable, great feedback from people, and just really humbled at all of that. And I appreciate you because you've invited me. You've gotten me off of my butt and gotten me here locally back to playing, and that was. I'm grateful to that.
Well, everyone wins, right? Certainly the folks down at the brewery win when they get to hear you play, and it's going to be a big win for us. A bunch of people are excited that you're coming down and playing at Mesquite Creek Outfitters in May.
Yeah, that's great, and that's a public event, right? Anyone can come to that, Aaron?
Absolutely, yeah. We've got an invitation list. I think my publisher will actually be sending out paper invitations. But you and Jamie will get one in the mail, I'm sure. But it is open to the public as well.
Well, that's great. We'll be sure to put the links up on the show notes to where it's going to be at and the dates. And also, people, if you're on our social media sites, you'll see me play a song every once in a while. I'm getting ready. I'm working on my stuff. It's going to be a fantastic night. Brandon Bales is going to be there. Chris Barclay. Who else is going to be there from the podcast that's been on our podcast before?
Brad Boone.
Brad Boone, that's right. Yeah.
Dr. Brad Boone, Davin Topol.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
I'm hoping Edgar Diaz will come up for it from the south side of town. Mm-hmm. Sightline Provisions. Merrill Robinson will probably be there. So it'll probably be the single greatest concentration of remote, no pressure guests the world has ever seen.
Because that's what we've all been waiting for. We want all of these celebrities from this podcast in one place. Maybe we should go in shifts so not all of us die in case something happens. Like we have the first shifters.
It would be a great loss, wouldn't it? We need a designated survivor. That'll be Bill. Bill can be the designated survivor.
Exactly. Wild Bill. No, but it's. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be great. Now, your book, Fly Fishing Austin, you sent me a copy, and I just want to say, first of all, I'm very humbled. You actually named a place after Remote No Pressure, an entry point there on the river. But what is it that made you do this? Is this something you always wanted to do? Did a publisher approach you, or how did this project come to fruition?
Well, it kind of fell in my lap. I always thought I'd write a book someday. I never thought I'd write this book. I've been a voracious reader. I was an English major in college. I have been writing for magazines since my early 20s, and I've written a lot of outdoor type stuff for regional magazines. And one of the things I used to write pretty frequently was articles for a website called roadtripamerica.com. And my publisher, Mark Siedenquist, is he and his wife are the founders of that website. And I had not written for them in probably 7 or 8 years, but we had kept in contact on social media and email. And Mark sent me an email one day. This was this June will be 3 Junes ago. And I was home on vacation. I had 3 weeks off from the boat. So I'm sitting here in Georgetown. He sends me an email. He says, "Hey, Aaron," he said, "I don't know if you've been keeping up, but we founded an independent press, and we're doing some outdoor guides. We've got a series of hiking guides, the base camp series that we're doing, and would love for you to do a review or provide a blurb or something." And I said, "Yeah, sure, send it on." He said, "Oh, and we're always looking for new book ideas." And I said, "Well, how about Fly Fishing Austin?" In the idea behind the Base Camp series, like Base Camp Denver, Base Camp Las Vegas, is that you can stay in a large metro area, an urban area, and take advantage of, the hotels and restaurants and shows or whatever else is going on. But during the day, within day trip distance, for instance, in Las Vegas, there are 101 really terrific hikes that most people don't even think about, up into alpine forest and mountains and desert and just really cool stuff. And I thought, well, we could kind of do the same thing with fly fishing. So he said, well, send me a proposal. So I sent him a proposal, an outline, and 2 sample chapters. And by the time I went back to the boat, I had a signed contract. So that's not the way most people get a book published, I guess. So I feel lucky. But it fell right into what I was already doing. I was already exploring the waters around Austin and Central Texas, and spending most of my free time wading these creeks and rivers and finding new access points. And so this just gave it a little more focus.
Yeah, and it's not like it happened overnight. I mean, it seems like it, but after, what do they say? After 20 years, you're an overnight success,
Like, yeah, exactly.
All the writing you did for the website, all the connections you've made, all the fishing that you've done, and it all kind of came to a head at one time. That's an amazing feat. What's your favorite part of the book, Aaron?
Oh man, that's hard to say. I don't know. I think an important part of the book, and one I spent a lot of time on, is the very first part of the book, which is, we call that section First Things and the Lowdown on Fly Fishing. It's like the first 50 pages or so. And that's really it's going to be kind of basic for anyone who already fly fishes. And, I invite readers to skip the next 3 chapters, if you've been at this for a while. But for someone who's just getting into it, or maybe just coming back to fly fishing after a long time, hopefully it will be helpful. And I did my best to demystify, some of the jargon, and make some recommendations for the kind of equipment you might want, and also the flies that'll work best around here. So I'm pretty proud of that part. The last 2 chapters of the book, the future of Texas waters, and the chapter on Texas river law, I worked really hard on as well. And those, I think, are important. As far as the fishing, I'd have to say the Pedernales River and the Lampasas River are my 2 favorite streams in the book.
Well, let's start out with the first 3 chapters, because I know a lot of people are probably listening right now and thinking, like, why do I care about a book in Texas? I'm in, California, or I'm out in Jersey or wherever. Why do I care about this fly fishing Austin book? I read the first 3 chapters, Aaron, and I can say, even though I know a little bit about fly fishing, I still learn. And that's the beauty of it. And it's those questions that a lot of anglers may even be too embarrassed to ask. Like what kind of tippet do I use? Or, there's like different things in those first 3 chapters that can really help a young or new angler that's worth buying the book for those first 3 chapters. And I think you did a great job outlining that, and also communicating that to the audience.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. A lot of people, and I've experienced this with my own friends whom I've introduced to the sport. A lot of people are intimidated, unfortunately, and we probably earned it somewhere along the way. But unfortunately, fly fishing has kind of an elitist reputation, maybe a little bit of snobbery, or, we're better than conventional anglers or whatever. And I don't think that's true at all. It's just another tool. It's the way I prefer to fish most of the time, and certainly in these rivers. But I still use conventional gear, especially in saltwater. And I want people to feel welcome. We've got an incredibly welcoming fly fishing community down here in Central Texas right now. People are generally pretty helpful, and like to see new folks come on board. We've got a ton of water. It's not going to get crowded anytime soon.
Yeah, I get that vibe every time I interview someone from Texas. It's not like this is our private area. And even your whole thing, the blue collar fly fishing, it's bluecollarflyfishing.com, right? That's your website?
Yep. That's it.
I was wearing that shirt the other day because I bought one from you. And a girl at Myers like, I really like your shirt. And I was like, oh, you like to fish? And she goes, yeah. I was like, do you fly fish? She goes, no, that seems too hard. And I'm like, actually, it's not. And of course, I get this talking. She just like her eyes glass over because I'm just like going on and on about it. But I'm like, no, there's fly girls in Michigan. You should hook up with them. And like you get connected. But I think you're right, and that's part of the reason I started this fly fishing podcast is because of the snobbery that the tradition that it's had. And I've had some people on it. Maybe this is your first time listening to the podcast, but if it's not, you may have heard me talk before about why is that. And a lot of fly fishing started over in like Great Britain and Ireland and where Scotland and all that whole area where you actually only private landowners could go fly fishing. So because they didn't have access. And so if you have a private landowner, well, you're rich because no one owns private land there, and so talking about that, like now we have public access, and that goes into even more important why public access is so important. And maybe that's part of the reason why the snobbery of fly fishing has depleted over the years, Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I think you're right. But there's a counterpoint to that as well. And back in the post-war years, really after everyone got back from Europe or the Pacific, all these guys came back into society in the U.S. And the economy was booming, and we had a ton of manufacturing jobs, and guys. If you read some of the old magazines, if you read, some of the old books, talk to folks who were around then, it was not at all unusual for a guy who worked on an assembly line on his way home from work, when his shift was over, to pull out his, Fenwick fiberglass fly rod and his Medalist reel and fish for an hour on the river on his way home. Mm-hmm. These days, a lot of people talk about blue collar fly reels, blue collar fly rods, these things that retailed for $20, back in the 50s or 60s or early 70s. And it very much was not, I'm sure there was still a segment of the fly fishing community that was elitist and maybe a little snobby or something, but it was also in every man's sport. And we've gotten away from that a little bit. Maybe I'd love to see it come back.
Yeah. Is that kind of the reason you call it blue collar fly fishing, or is it just is that like the working man? Is that where that came from, Aaron?
Yeah, exactly that, and also that's what I do. When I was 40, I ditched the jacket and tie and the office job, and like Ishmael, I quietly took to sea. So I'm a merchant mariner. It's a pretty much a blue collar job,
Before that, you were a social worker, right?
No, I did work for the agency that includes Child Protective Services and Adult Protective Services. But I was a public affairs officer, public information officer. I did media stuff, communication stuff.
Okay. And that was just kind of a stressful thing for you, wasn't it? I mean, at age 40, is that when everything kind of, if you don't mind me asking, right? Is that kind of when everything shifted in your life? Is that like the shifting age for you?
Yeah, in a lot of ways it was. And partly because I like to say I'm a late bloomer. Other people would probably tell you I took too damn long to grow up. But I made a real conscious decision around that time to kind of try to change my life and be a better human being, basically, because in a lot of ways I hadn't been a great one up until that point. And so I got a little more serious about things like trying to be reliable and honest and transparent. And I was really looking for what I think of as coherence, that my inside matched my outside or vice versa. Mm-hmm. My interior life matched my exterior life. So, and it's something I still work on every day. I don't have it down or anything. I mean, trying to get better all the time. But that all kind of happened around the same time. And I have to give my wife credit. She was really supportive of me, but doing something that was not giving me bleeding ulcers. So, that was great.
That's really awesome. Now, Aaron, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, what I was getting to with the whole public, access. I know something that's important to you is public access there in Texas. What is the state of public access like there?
Well, it's a mixed bag. We have about 1.1 million acres of submerged land, or emergent land in Texas, which is about the same amount of land that is in the entire state parks, wildlife management area system. And Texas is at the very bottom of the list nationwide for public lands. We entered the union by treaty. Texas wanted the United States to take over its public debt, the Republic's public debt. And they said, no, we don't really want to do that. You can keep your $15 million in public debt, but in return, you can also keep all your lands. So unlike all the other Western states, Texas has very, very, very little federal public land. And most of what we have is in Big Bend National Park, way out west. So unlike Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, Montana, some of the New Mexico, we don't have these sprawling national forests. We do have national forests in the eastern part of the state, close to where you grew up, but we don't have them in the central part of the state or out west. We don't have any BLM land. We don't have these huge national parks with rivers running through them. Most of our land is in private hands. But on the other hand, if a stream is either navigable by statute or navigable in law or in fact, then the public retains the right to use that stream bed, whether it has water in it or not. So there's nothing like you see in some Western states where you can float the river, but you can't drop your anchor or step out of the boat or wade or pull up on the bank or a gravel bar. We don't have that kind of thing here in Texas.
What is the conservation like? I mean, I know that's something that you guys are part of with the all water guides, right? That you guys work with, or Texas Streams Coalition.
Texas Streams Coalition. All Water Guides is a terrific outfitter here, and they're really good friends, and they do a whole lot on the lower Colorado River, and they host a big loco trash bash every year, and other things. I mean, they're very active in conservation, but people aren't. I think people aren't thinking ahead. Our population is projected to double by the year 2050. And over the next 50 years, the Texas Water Development Board says that we're going to have about an 8 million acre feet shortfall in water that will need about 21.5 million acre feet, and we're going to have 13.6 million acre feet, which is less than we have now.
Wow.
As we draw down these aquifers, some of them, the Trinity Aquifer, which is a sandy aquifer, it creates these sand cones, which kind of collapse, and it can't be refilled. And our surface water and our groundwater is managed differently, which goes back to the early 20th century. The groundwater is allocated by rule of capture, which is an old English common law idea that if you drill down into it on your property, you can pump as much as you want, and it doesn't matter how it affects your neighbor or the river. Even though these aquifers, of course, don't follow property boundaries, and the aquifers also create the springs that feed the rivers that nourish the estuaries down on the coast. So it's all connected.
Now, I don't know if people from outside of Texas may not know this, but there's only one non-man-made lake in the entire state of Texas. That's Cato Lake, which is up on the border.
Yep.
So can you just describe how that's done there, how they create lakes and how they've done that through the years?
Yeah, well, they dam rivers, and And we don't have salmon. We had stripers at one point, at least in Southeast Texas. We don't really anymore. So we don't have. This isn't affecting fish migrations the way it might, like in the Pacific Northwest or on the East Coast. But it certainly does reduce the amount of water that makes it down to the bays. Of course, that's also the water that powers places like Austin, the Highland Lakes
right.
chain, Lake Travis, Lake LBJ, Lake Buchanan. That's where we get our drinking water and our water for agriculture and industry as well. So most of those reservoirs were built. Some of them were built as early as the 30s, but there was a big boom in the 50s all over the state, and not a whole lot has been built since then. And so when we do get a lot of rain, have a tropical storm park over us or whatever, a lot of that water gets wasted. It runs off and can't be captured.
If people wanted to learn more about preserving and the water there, does Texas Stream Coalition, they have a website, or where can we send them to learn more?
Yeah, it's tx-streams.org.
Okay.
And there are a lot of other resources listed there as well.
Excellent. Well, we'll put those links up on our website. Now, as far as you, what's next for you? I know you got this book coming out. Is it just kind of on hold right now? It's quite the project that you did. You're seeing this artwork and this work come to life over years and years and years of work. Are you just kind of breathing right now and waiting for May for the release, or is there anything else that you're working toward, or what's kind of next for you?
Well, I feel like I'm busy, with the boys and scouts and the honey-do list. There are a lot of stuff piled up while I was busy writing and scouting stuff, exploring rivers. I actually took a little break from fishing between October and January while the book was being printed, and not because I was tired of fishing. It's just that I had so many other things that I needed to do that I'd been putting off. So I've been twice in January so far. It's been cold and the water's cold, and I had one fishless day, which was a fine day with a friend. And I had one day where we caught a lot of little fish and had a ball. Yeah, man, I've just been hanging out, getting ready for the book launch, and been doing a little other writing. I've reconnected with some guys I used to write for, Texas Outdoors Journal, which is not a fly fishing magazine per se. It has some fly fishing in it, and it looks like I'll be coming back on board as a regular contributor to them, covering a variety of topics. I'm still doing some writing for Southwest Fly Fishing Magazine as well. I think there was a story on our Apache trout trip in Arizona in the last issue. So that's it. And other than that, just driving a tugboat and hanging with the family.
Well, that's great, Aaron. Well, thanks for hanging out with me. I'm very excited. We want you to come on again on the show here closer to May. But I really appreciate you hanging out with me, and I really appreciate your friendship, man. Thanks for all you do, man. I really appreciate it.
Jeff, I appreciate you having me on the show, and I appreciate your friendship. One of the greatest things that has come out of this book is the relationships I've formed over the last almost 3 years now, and certainly I count our friendship as one of the most important.
Well, thank you very much, Aaron. I really appreciate that. Well, you have a great day, and we'll talk to you closer to May.
Okay, man. Sounds great.
Well, thanks for hanging out with me today, Bill.
Yes.
And thank you guys for hanging out with us on the Remote No Pressure podcast. Bill, you're going to have to go to Austin and fly fish now.
Yeah, I do. I know.
Have you been to Austin before?
I have not. I've never been south of Dallas.
Really?
Yeah, Dallas, Tyler area. That's East Texas. Yeah. It's the only part of Texas I've been to.
Were you there with our old friend G?
Yep.
And Tyler?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that
on touring?
Yep. A big youth group down there.
Yeah, big things down there.
Can't remember.
I think they got in trouble. Acquire the Fire.
Yes. Did they?
I think they did. I think they got shut down or something.
No kidding?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a long time ago, Bill. Lots of water under the bridge. Sorry if I've triggered anyone from old memories of religion, but with Acquire the Fire, but I'm sorry if I did. You're welcome to email me and chew me out for that. But Bill, it's always a pleasure hanging out with you. You're doing such a great job with our production and everything, and thank you to you. And also thank you, Jennifer. I don't know if she ever listens to the show, but I know that it's like a sacrifice to her being newlyweds and everything. So. That wasn't a joke.
I know.
It's kind of like when we talk.
I appreciate it. Yeah, she appreciates it.
It's kind of like in the intro, you're like, I didn't want to tell jokes because we were really serious about how great this book is.
Yeah.
Like, I know how good marriage is, and that first, you're newlyweds, like it's a big sacrifice, and I didn't want to make a joke.
Now I just can't help but laugh.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on another episode of the Remote No Pressure Podcast. We're so happy to have you join us, and until next time, go fishing.